Hello there. Mark Risen-Hopkins here. Thank you for joining us on the last Merge Roundtable of the year. I am Mark Risen-Hopkins. I am joined by Jim Durbin. This empty chair over here will at some point be filled by Frank Kushner.
Loudly, probably.
Loudly, yeah. He is, as a financial advisor, the end of the year is a big time for him.
Sure.
So
Sure.
he is forgiven.
It's a big time for all of us.
But I guess bigger for it because taxes and end of year movement of money and all that sort of thing. He's handling a fire, as he has every time we've recorded this week. There's been lots of fires, so we'll ask about that. But we're going to talk about some interesting stuff news wise. Look back a little bit on the last year. A lot of predictions and reflections posts are coming out from tech luminaries and
Sure.
people in business, and so there's an interesting story that popped up just under the wire for this year about spy balloon, that whole spy balloon thing with China.
Right.
That was cool. Vitalik Buterin is making some reflections on the future, reflections of the past and the future of Ethereum. The FTX thing still continue, which is a big story all year round, is continuing to be a thing that is impacting the crypto community. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And we're gonna talk. Me, Frank, and Jim are gonna talk about what we think is coming up in the next year. So stay tuned. We'll be back right after this and talk about it.
Frank. I'm still going to try to get you another more McDonald.
You're back. We're back. Okay, cool,
We're live.
sweet. I'm looking at. Yeah, I didn't know what the was going on with the intro package because couldn't see the screen. So
We understand you real good.
me understanding. Thank you. So yeah.
Hey, happy early New Year.
It's getting there. It's just about there. This story that, I mean, it seems like it was 6 or 7 years ago, but the Chinese weather balloon story was this year. You recall
That was
that
still
one?
it was the early part of this year.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
So Daily Mail today is reporting that it was connected, as many suspected, giving real-time data back to China. What I guess wasn't kind of suspected is that it was using an American carrier.
I noticed in the story it's unnamed and they deny it. How
Sure.
do they deny it if you're unnamed?
Yeah, right.
It wasn't
they
me
just
and I didn't do it.
They just asked all the American carriers until they all just said
And
no.
who denied it?
Right.
They couldn't use a satellite for that? They had to go doing the Frontier or
Maybe it was Starlink.
Affinity.
Could have been.
Something like
could have
that.
been Starlink. Could have been a satellite.
Yeah, if that's true, they're probably making it up though.
Well, I mean, they didn't name Starlink, so there's your clue.
Would have been if they'd done it, they would have named it.
Yeah.
'Cause they do not like that guy.
Right. Which interesting Starlink story from this week too, which it just popped into my mind that we mentioned it. But like to me, I'm looking at this story and I'm wondering why, if we have all these warrantless wiretap abilities that we've been talking about all year long for our government, how is it they were not able to find out what was going on at any point?
Well, how is it that everybody has sales loft and everybody has what's the Salesforce?
Yeah.
But isn't making $1 million? People are incompetent.
So why are we
Even the
giving
bad
them
guys.
the ability to invade all of our privacy at the level that we have?
Because
If they're not
they
gonna
need
do
these
anything-
super tools
Mhm.
to make up for their lack of competence, competence, intelligence, morality, and ethics. So
Okay.
the tool, if it's strong enough, because it's so cool, then you don't have to worry about doing things like due process or, intent.
Sure,
Anything like that.
Mens rea, right? I just feel like maybe this. I mean, this like many of the other millions of warning signs we've passed on the road and just kind of ignored. This should have been the thing. Like, if you can't even handle national defense with your massive amount of terrorism defense warrantless wiretap abilities, like that's what it was built for. Is like, hey, we'd be able to stop exactly
Well,
this
just
sort
a
of thing.
grab bag.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool if, hey, let's create the Department of Homeland Security because everybody's freaked out about terrorism.
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong?
This
Look,
is-
they're spying on journalists and in the Senate chamber. Yeah, but we like that president.
But this is literally Homeland Security. Like there was a foreign object floating over over our country, and like this was their chance to say, "Hey, all those warrantless wiretap abilities you gave us, we got them, guys."
It's like Mark was telling us, the younger Mark.
Yeah.
He thinks people still have a confidence in their institutions, and the answer is you don't.
Yeah.
I don't know if it wasn't just the pandemic, because there's definitely been a decline overall in almost all services across the board in most places. Just in general, trying to get anybody to do anything these days is a little bit astounding. And if you're out there hustling, the ability to just listen to someone, follow through, and do something as simple as, I'm going to take your phone, I'm going to go set it in your closet, or set it on your desk.
Right.
You can't assume that that's going to happen. And, we talk about younger folks having this problem emotionally being able to manage themselves, but have you seen government workers recently? The whole mission thing that they have is basically, it's just a magic totem of, we're doing it. But you were joking about Starlink, and then the number of people who are the number of government agencies that all of a sudden have turned on Musk since he bought Twitter. And it reminds me back in the days when True the Vote, Catherine Engelbrecht down in Houston, got OSHA and the ATF and the FBI and the EEOC. It was basically everybody in the government found some reason to all of a sudden, after years of doing nothing wrong, she's got 15 investigations from different branches. And I just don't see how anyone looks at that and doesn't say that's just a corrupt system. You don't just get noticed and all of a sudden all those people are messing with you. It is clear. It doesn't even have to be coordinated. The problem now is they're incompetent. They can't do your basic stuff. So I think they're going to use those things it's far easier to spy on people. I know. I mean, that's kind of where, look, do you remember when they pretended that people at Facebook and Reddit couldn't see what you were writing? Yeah. Or LinkedIn, who can look at what you're typing into your drafts before you ever publish it? Mm-hmm. Google and Yahoo, that used to be one of the perks. Remember, that was the big deal. That was the perk of working in those early social companies. Yeah. Is that they get to watch everything you do. Is it surprising now that as people move further in the government that they want more to catch up, to be cool?
It's not surprising.
And then cash out?
But it is not surprising, because power begets power, but it is disappointing seeing as we supposedly have these bills of rights that protect us from this sort of thing that don't seem to be effective at the job that they were intended.
Do I need to quote the new Spider-Man to you?
With great power comes great responsibility.
No. Just don't get your hopes up, and that way you can never be disappointed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, a little different one from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bizarre thing, but I can't wait for the commercial a couple of years from now. I spent 25 years spying on you and all of your loved ones. Now I'm here to defend you. I'm taking all those tricks, and for just $4,000, I can sit and I can protect your cybersecurity.
So speaking of regulatory capture and the government and private industry being in bed with each other, and Starlink. So Starlink this week, the decision came down from FCC. They reaffirmed their decision to reject their application for nearly $900 million in subsidies. So what were these subsidies for? It's the rural electrification type stuff, where they essentially, back when, if Mark Shutt was here, we would be explaining this to him like we were old timers.
It's like 1906, wasn't it? The Telecommunications Act.
You get the electrification, and then the communications and
dollar
all that stuff.
Here,
basically,
the Tennessee Valley Fund that you have in your cell phones. Yeah.
But like all these little, if anybody still has a landline and they go look at their bill, they've got all these little surcharges and taxes that are for essentially to subsidize. It's a tax collected that gets sent back to AT&T or whatever the phone companies are, that will allow them to subsidize, sending telecommunications, wired and wireless communications back to Indian reservations or rural places. Like where we were in Tyler as children, Lindale didn't have tone dialing until until I was in 10th grade. So you were already out of there by then. You'd already moved back to places where they had.
I was in college, but
telecommunications.
Sure.
You were in anyway. Well, they had. What I was saying, places that had.
No, I was in Florida.
Telecommunications, right?
We just shouted down the beach.
So, that's what that fund is for. There has been over the years, as the standard and the bar for what communications and connectivity actually means has increased, there's been new funds and new surcharges and new taxes that have
just
been
kind of
created by the
thrown
FCC. Right.
Wasn't there one?
But
I think back to the pork busters days. So we're talking 2004 and 5, and they were fighting. We only had $6 trillion in debt. And they cut a tax that was from the Civil War. But it was applied to your phone and somehow. And they talked about literally is a 150-year-old tax that nobody remembers, but AT&T charges it. And
yeah.
Somebody was something like that. There was a tax that was still being charged. It was like $100,000 a year.
Yeah, no. So this is also the time when I was writing for my personal blog, and this is one of the first posts that made me go viral. You can Google it someday or Google it sometime. One man's quest to get the $5 internet. So if you recall, like the breakup of the Bells, and then AT&T sort of gobbled them all back up, and they were facing some antitrust.
They had to pay $100,000 a year to put a Sprint kiosk inside the AT&T headquarters in Atlanta.
That's pretty funny.
That's the kind of stuff that.
Well, one of the other conditions of them coming back together was that they had to offer for rural and underprivileged or low income families. They had to offer them $5 internet. So basic sort of connectivity. I went viral because it literally took me 3 full days. Like if you measure out like the 4 or 5 hours I was on the phone every day, like it was 3 days of being on the phone with AT&T to actually get the internet. I was probably one of the only people that had $5 internet.
What year was this?
This would have been, it was Mashable. Jacob was an infant, so probably about 16 years ago or so.
Yeah. I don't do a very good George Bush. I was going to try to do a good Clinton.
Yeah.
We're going to bring that internet to you. It's going to be fast, and it's going to matter.
It's going to matter. This is still the era of Al Gore having invented the internet. So anyway, so there's a long history of AT&T not satisfying the demands of the federal government and still getting those subsidies. So it's really baffling to me that Elon, who actually is providing affordable...
Yeah, what are they going to do if he decides not to give them launch capability? What happens if he decides not to just doesn't work with them? And it feels like that they don't really have a lot to stand on. He's the only... SpaceX can't do it anymore. There's nobody that can launch without them. So it's weird that they keep picking on him.
Firefly Aerospace, SpaceX. There's also like 1 or 2 other.
But who's putting them up? Who's actually putting it up for the U.S. government? Because it's not SpaceX.
Yeah, Firefly Aerospace
they gave
is
up.
one.
SpaceX gave up.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
SpaceX gave up doing...
Their launch capability wasn't working.
What?
What do you mean? They just launched one like this morning. The
SpaceX?
Falcon.
What's the
Falcon X
what's
just
the
went up.
Amazon one?
Yeah, Blue Origin.
Blue Origins.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
meant.
yeah.
Not SpaceX.
Yeah. So yeah, no, there's...
I'll be in and out. Clients are really challenging with 3 hours left.
Good.
Oh yeah, you got a 3-hour...
So I don't know if anyone had the chance to actually see what I had to talk about.
Hey, Frank, welcome to the Roundtable.
Hey, guys. Great to be
see ya.
here. And, of course, now I have to take this call, but we'll be back.
Okay.
So that's what it's like to have a job.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. All right, so whatever Frank was going to talk about, we'll circle back into a second. But figure we can move on to Vitalik Buterin.
Yes.
He's put out an interesting post earlier today, or actually not earlier today, yesterday. Make Ethereum cypherpunk again. I love it. You of course, this was going to be the quiz here on the table.
Oh, because
cypherpunk.
didn't know what it
I don't know what
was.
cypherpunk. You know what cypherpunk is.
We've had long discussions about it.
For those that don't know what cypherpunk is, Google cypherpunk manifesto. It'll take you about 3 minutes to read if you...
Just go watch that horrible hackers movie with Angelina Jolie.
Don't do that. No.
What? Our Max Headroom, if you want to go back that far?
I mean, that's not cypherpunk. That's cyberpunk.
Yeah, but it kind of falls into the whole, they feel like they get it.
No.
No?
It'd be so much quicker just to read the one page of internet.
Well, yeah.
And then get at the actual... Cypherpunk is the movement of people that eventually created Bitcoin. Like that's essentially the short version of it. But it's a group of hardware and software hackers, culturally centered around Berkeley's computer science unit, that are very anarchist leaning, that that believe in privacy above all, believe that people should be allowed to have the amount of privacy they think they need, and will use mathematics and cryptography to do it. Cypherpunks are the people that self-identify in building that technology typically. Not all of them are into cryptocurrency, but most are.
Right.
That's the shortest answer. And then I guess if you want to watch a show
It's just
that
the
has
cultural, the whole idea that you can do
if
stuff.
you want to watch something with Keanu Reeves in
Phone
it, then go watch
freaking.
it. I guess.
Is he in Hackers?
No, he's in a bunch of other different.
The other
but
ones?
he's in Cyberpunk 2077, and he's in
1 second, I'm in.
that one with the hacking dolphin. I forget the name of.
The Hacking Dolphin?
Yeah. It's like a 90s movie.
I got to stay away from dolphins because it's either Echo, the friendly dolphin, or that horrible stuff on Reddit that no one talks about. No, you don't want me to talk about it.
No, not take. Johnny Mnemonic is what I was thinking of.
Oh,
yeah.
God, that's at least Hackers was 80s.
Yeah.
That was terrible. That was terrible.
So anyway, his post, Vitalik Buterin's post on Ethereum, he reminisces a little bit about early crypto memories. Talks about the original vision for Web3 and Ethereum, that it was, co-founded by Gavin Wood, envisioning Ethereum as part of more of an open internet stack beyond just Bitcoin plus smart contracts.
Right.
And in 2017, there was a shift towards consumer-facing crypto products. The DeFi kind of shift is kind of where all that sort of influence.
So what's he think it's going to do?
I mean, he wants to go back towards where advancements were headed to before that, like zero knowledge proofs, light clients, abstractions. Basically, thinking about Ethereum more like a protocol, so that builders can build better things on top of it. That it doesn't the Ethereum,
Right.
Ethereum itself does
The whole
not.
point of build a network over a period of time, make sure it's stable so that other people log in. You take a portion of it. You're not going to make hundreds of billions, but you can literally power the internet.
The main issue that we're seeing now, and this I think happened, and I agree with Vitalik. I've said it before on the show, I believe, that or at least probably on Mark's show, talking about how in 2017, that was also the era that IBM and other enterprise players started talking about blockchain.
Right.
And the watchword in those circles, I remember very clearly, was blockchain, not Bitcoin, because they wanted to distance
Right.
themselves from the cypherpunk culture.
We're not crypto. We're
Right.
well. That's different though. That's not because that was before crypto was known as all the scams and the.
Well, but it was known as the
ICOs.
Ross Ulbricht stuff. So it was hookers and blow is the association that was predominantly around Bitcoin and crypto at that point. And so obviously, if you're Jenny Remedy in charge of IBM, you don't want that to be the calling card for your new, bet the company idea. So what ended up happening is you had an invasion of the culture in blockchain from a bunch of people that were partially from the banking sector, partially from enterprise, that were all about compliance. And compliance implies KYC, it implies regulatory capture, it implies a bunch of things that are not cypherpunk. It's not censorship resistance. It's not like decentralization. It's about control and making sure the government doesn't come after you, because if you're trying to, be concerned about your corporate bottom line, the last thing you want is
I want
to
you to
pay for
imagine a
lobbying.
world where we decided on our politicians based on their answers to certain things.
Okay.
So one of them would be something simple like DeFi or crypto or privacy.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about the fact that a guy, we'll call him Bill, might be able to spend $1,000 a week that you can't track? How does that make you feel? And if they get mad or talk something else, then they're no good. That the idea that instantly they assume he's doing something wrong or that they have the right to jump in and grab it. Because that's really what it comes down to. How dare you do something that I can't stop?
Right.
That inner pulse, an impulse that people have. There ought to be a law.
Mm-hmm.
We still have we still have laws on the books about not walking a donkey through portions of Indiana, or not throwing an ear at your wife.
Or having some wire clippers in your back pocket in certain states.
Oh yeah, or having anything in New Jersey representing a gun, including a bitten pastry or maybe some fingers.
Mm-hmm. New York for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are we going with that?
So
it's just
Sorry, I
fascinating
just
the need for control that you see in people, and it really is something that we've kind of given up. And you saw that in the pandemic with, by the way, not just powerful people, lots of just regular people.
Yeah, the Karen culture.
It's not even just Karen. It's the mask. It's the vaccines. It's the all kinds of vaccines, right? It's the earth oils. It's when someone does something they don't like, they get really, really mad at you. And it's fascinating to watch what happens when they get a little money and power.
It's interesting that you see, like, and I say this all the time, from person to company to organization to municipality to whatever organism, the organism wants to grow, right? Period. And how do you grow as a government?
You're dying.
How do you grow as a government? You control money supply. You control regulation. You control how people are able to make money, spend money, and you tax, right? And if you look at that across individuals, corporations, countries, you see that we, the Americans and the Chinese, have really amazing ways of controlling and taking over people's money supply. Look at all the Central American countries that are like, we give up because we can't manage our own import, export, and tax collection, and we're going to peg ourselves to the US dollar, which means they have given up. They literally have given up control of their economy and have pegged it to the US dollar, right? And so if you take that further, the US now wants to control money that they already have taxed, right? Like, if you look at the estate taxes, you have a certain amount that you can give away. What I just got done doing, what I just had the opportunity to do, which is great, one of my favorite, largest clients, is that we have, like, a limited amount of time in the to the end of the year, right? And in this case, there are limits. You're able to donate $17,000 per person to another person. Now, if you're a joint couple, if you're a husband and a wife, you're able to put away $34,000. I
haven't gotten a Venmo from you, Mark. I'm a little disappointed. You're about 17 grand short for the year, just so you know.
Okay.
January 1 starts a new one. So
yeah, you could do it. Yeah, that, and then
I don't see your notifications on Cash App, Frank. So before you start poking at him,
I just issued a payment from my BOP commissary account, so it's going to take a minute. So
I sent it through ADP, and the check is in the mail.
No, this is the gift. This is gift work.
In order to give away your money that you've already paid taxes on after you passed away, remember, you've already paid taxes on it. If you have over a certain amount of money, the government will take 50%. And so in order to avoid that and losing that unified credit, you have certain rules. And some of these rules are, you can give away $17,000 to each individual. So, like, grandchildren, great opportunity to put money away into their college savings plans, right? But unfortunately, sometimes these things are left to 3 hours before the market closes on the last day of the year. Not a good idea.
Rough.
But these are rules that are required to what? Control. And to take advantage of the tax code, you need someone to help you guide through that.
We got to stop terrorism. The only people allowed to fund terrorism are going to be states, and states that we fund.
This took a turn for him because he has no context of what the hell you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay, I will revert back out of my teaching phase, and I'm just going to sit here and listen to that.
I think there's a scale problem too. I don't think people realize especially I was talking to my dad the other day about something about the number of childhood vaccinations you need before 18. And he was like, there's like 3. What's the big deal? I'm like, there's 50. And it's saying there's the required, there's recommended, it's the CDC schedule, and there's stuff on there like dengue fever. And we were arguing about that the other day. And the question is, there's a difference between 6 and 50. There's a difference between, I'm paying 25% federal income tax, and oh my God, I'm paying 60% in some form or another in taxes to other places. There's how much control do they really have over you? And the problem is that the U.S. system works on trust and volunteer cooperation because we're a high trust society and have been. As we split and begin to move into more, not just regional, but ethnic questions, we have these huge blue and red divides, which is still one of the silliest things we ever said was blue and red. That trust goes away. The government's forced to be harder because people are cheating.
Have the Bloods and the Crips actually taken over the political system?
No. I would say
Different blue and red.
Yeah.
Different blue and red, I think.
Yeah, less in fairness. No, but it's interesting because when you hear about Irish democracy or the Greeks, the idea that they can squeeze taxes out of their people is considered a joke. It's called Irish democracy. Basically, everything's under the table. You can make whatever plans you want. It's like living in Chicago. I don't know anyone in Chicago who has their cars in Illinois. It's Indiana, Florida. So they're just ignoring it. So when you're the idiot that comes and parks in the wrong spot, you get a $200 ticket in Chicago, but the person who knows there has been dodging it for so long. That's the danger in government overreaching is I don't think people realize just how restrictive we've become in everything that you do, whether it's
Transparency
getting a
rules?
house, writing
We're
something
talking about
on Twitter.
transparency rules?
So this
I mean,
is
it's wild,
actually
man.
on the list of things to talk about. So Wall Street Journal article came out this week. It was an update on what we already knew about with the FinCEN reporting for beneficial ownership of a corporation. The new guidance, I guess, from FinCEN is that yes, we all suspected this was going to be true, but they confirmed it. Yes, we will be responding to any law enforcement request to show beneficial ownership and bear personal data.
So they're flat out. So
yeah,
I mean, that's the problem. That's hard to argue against that because we know people that are using all the holding companies. And I mean, it's the whole point of shell corporations, right? It's to hide money, play around, do things you shouldn't do. Isn't that the whole point of it?
No.
Well, it's certainly what I get from watching television.
As I'm trying to share this with somebody who literally just ruined the whole show, I want him to see that we're actually working.
yeah, but
I mean, that's the overall gist of it, right? That's what they're.
Yeah, they're saying that, like, I mean, this is just another instance, in going back to the top of the show, where the government is giving itself more liberties with our data. I mean, like, there's no warrants involved. It's just an interagency sharing request at this point. And because FinCEN isn't, law enforcement technically, it's Treasury Department, there's no like constitutional separation of powers issues with bearing that information.
And then they just share it to somebody else.
And if there were, they just fence it through the Homeland Security anyway.
Yeah.
So fun. Great country you got there.
So
Shame
you
if
think,
something would happen
you think
to it.
that that politicians are not going to have, that they're going to be honest about their being a beneficiary of their LLCs? I mean, you have famous people who get their names hidden. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm paying to have my name hidden. I'm paying to have this take off. When they let go all the people with concealed carry licenses in New York, that was supposed to be a big deal. It turns out it was just a bunch of rich liberals on the.
I do predict
Howard Stern.
that FinCEN will be very quickly overwhelmed with FOIA requests because there is such a. I mean, it's not privileged information in that it's classified, right? So
We can FOIA the FOIAs.
you certainly could FOIA the
We
FOIAs,
can set
but you
chatbot
could.
up to FOIA the FOIAs.
They're not very well equipped to share database information on the existing databases that they maintain,
Right.
as many bankers will tell you. So for people like you who used to be involved in investigative journalism and politics, there's a wealth of information there that could be potentially damaging.
I was just a grassroots supporter.
Okay, you were a blogger.
You know what's really difficult and overwhelming is that even for the best of intentions, when you stand up a corporation, let's say that you're an entrepreneur, let's say, right now we've got this amazing economy, we've got this amazing technology, these large language models that are allowing us to do some really interesting things and even new things, right? Like literally the sharpest part of the sharpening, the little bits and pieces that we're doing. Require rails, right? Like you need to set up a corporation. Right. You need to know which kind of corporation you set up, but at the very least, you need to have a separate entity, right? Like, so you're going to be Frank Kushner or I'm going to be DBK Health. And that DBK Health is going to handle employee benefit advising, which doesn't want to cross-contaminate with Ensemble Financial, which is financial advising. But me individually as a person, I'm involved in both of those organizations, but they do completely separate things and I need to be held accountable as an officer in different things. Not every company that works in that way, like if you make little things on Etsy or you make different types of stuff, there's still risks involved with all of that. And fraud pierces all veils already, right?
Yeah.
So the difficulty there is that we all know that if you need to do your job during the day, like I did having to leave here and come in and come out, you still have to have somebody that runs the business, and not always does everything get done immediately. When you go to the bank and you open a bank account, did you actually write in your corporate minutes that DBK Health decided to open a bank account here today? No, we didn't. Did you put it in the binder? Did you put it in the folder? Maybe, maybe not. You know these audits. You know,
I do know
these audits are going to find something wrong, right? And then what's going to happen? Then they're going to funnel through every single corporate entity that you have and look at the same thing, and then they're going to find everybody across the board. You know, so this is, again, hope not to be in the eye of Sauron. Right. And the difficulty there is it's electronic. It's very easy to find if you do the self-reporting.
Yeah. And yeah. Well,
anyway, I could see that this is going to be very onerous, and yes, there will be plenty of FOIA
Interesting
requests.
to see what happens with it, because it is a strange thing to all of a sudden, on the one hand, we're like, oh, you already look at and read everything we do anyway. Oh, we're not allowed to look at those. Yeah, okay.
So this is an interesting thought, and I know if I got back on this Dow panel that I was at with over at NABS, there would be at least one person on that panel that would disagree with this thing I'm about to say. But this almost makes forming a DAO less onerous with all the technical hurdles that exist with that than forming an LLC. And certainly you don't get some of the legal protections from a DAO that you do, but you also get a lot more programmable money aspects out of things. You get a lot more,
right? Because it's not your money, it's not your thing. It's it's not individual.
Right.
By the way, I know that you guys think that we're popular and cool and all that, but this has filtered out into the mainstream because a friend of mine who started a business in July sent me a TikTok from the who is this person? The news girl.
Cool.
63,000 likes, 1,500 comments, and it's all about beneficial ownership report and the FinCEN. So in a minute and a half, she was able to generate all this attention. And people are like, oh my God, what's this? I'm like, it's clear you don't watch our show and
Yeah,
talk to me ever. And but TikTok is apparently how people are learning about this. Now they're freaking out. What am I supposed to do?
Well, she didn't tag us, obviously.
Well, one of the problem is they call me and ask me what to do. I'm like, you didn't get all the information you needed from TikTok?
Yeah.
You need to click on the link that told you what was going to happen? Do I have to do this by Monday? No. Let me Google that before he's been replaced by. Let me TikTok that for you, and then I'll call someone who actually knows what's going on and annoy them and ask them.
TikTok is a great rumor mill, though. It definitely will alarm a lot of people.
Everything the Chinese want you to know.
So NCRI, did we talk about this on the show? The NCRI report last week? Okay, so, about TikTok versus Instagram propaganda. I thought I talked about it on the show. I talked about it with a lot of people, so maybe I didn't. But so
I'm sure you did.
So the NCRI is a research organization that I've done some work for.
Right.
That out of the kind of the DC area, not exactly in DC, but they do a lot of research into social data and financial data. They recently issued a report this week that said that through auditing of popular news-related hashtags of the last year, there is a clear amount of media manipulation that's occurring between topics that have sovereign national interest between China and the United States. So, for instance, the Uyghur, how do I say it?
Uyghur.
Uyghur.
Uyghur. Uyghur. It sounds like exactly as it's spelled.
Right. Exactly. the Uyghur claims of rounding those folks up have been suppressed on TikTok and not maybe allowed to flourish on Instagram. Stuff about the Palestinian war, stuff about the Ukrainian war. These are the sort of things. It's been some clear evidence of gerrymandering of the hashtag, so to speak. So TikTok, great source of information.
I got to buy someone a bottle of bourbon because I thought TikTok would be banned
by
this time this year.
It might still be.
I got a day left. I'm pretty sure the legislation's not going to go through.
Well,
I mean, I don't have a lot of hopes in that one.
I was gonna bring in a couple other AI stories because AI was the thing that blew up this year that nobody, I don't think, saw coming. At least in the way that it happened. There was a lot of interesting stories about not just AI itself, but the politics of AI leadership with Sam Altman and him being ousted and brought back in. But we're getting to the point where every major big tech company and some unheard of startups and decentralized movements all have their own flavor of LLM. Bard, you guys see the link that I posted in the group chat this week about Bard? Elephants have 8 legs.
I saw that, but what was that? Basically, it was just bad
Okay,
content.
so this is an actual link to Bard.
Right.
All right. Maybe like hit Control Plus so we can see the text a little bit better, Jacob.
If 2 of them are legless.
Okay, so the question is, this is like one of those word problems that helps you like gauge the reasoning ability of an LLM. How many legs do 10 elephants have if 2 of them are legless? Just answer the question. How many legs do 10 elephants have?
32.
So it's four legs per elephant minus two elephants that have 0 legs. So
It sounds like a joke that I just really want to say, but
the answer is.
And then the Pope says, "I didn't even know it was a bear."
So the answer from Bard here is, I mean, this is interesting.
Pretty bad. 80. Yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
everyone knows
8
elephants
legs.
has 10 legs.
8 legs per elephant is the standard. So 10 elephants would have 8 legs per elephant times 10 elephants equaling 80 legs. However, if 2 of the elephants are legless, then we need to subtract their leg count from the total. Since legless elephants have 0 legs, the total leg count becoming 80 legs minus 0 legs from 2 legless elephants equals 80 legs.
See, this is why it's so important for the new math. It's not the answer. It is the way that you come
The
to
way
it.
that you get there?
I'm pretty sure that's probably based on new math.
I don't know.
I've seen some weird stuff for people, the way that they do it, and it's very odd to me.
I'm going to put the link to this because this is actually on Bard. That was a link on Bard's. So you can, like, when you share a conversation, you can continue it. I'll put this in the description of the show because, like, if you then follow up in the question, like asking, like, how did you come to this? Can you explain your thinking? It says, "Oh, I didn't communicate that properly. I'm sorry. I should have better communicated." No, you didn't. You just got it wrong, dude.
There's a kid on Reddit who said that when he was a kid, I don't know how old he is now, but when he was younger, like 12 or 13, he was bored. So he'd go on Quora and pretend to be a disease expert. And he'd Google stuff and he'd write it and he would try to write it down. Like he would just all use cites. Like he'd never share opinions. It was always sharing stuff. Well, he got a lot of it wrong, but it was one of the most, I mean, he looked back at one point and hundreds of thousands of people are watching. What do you think these LLMs are trained on?
Yeah, they're trained on publicly available information. Yeah, sure.
So what do you think about the suit? You can't use my stuff. The New York Times filed it.
Oh, that's going to fail miserably.
I find it interesting because it's like once it's out in the public domain, I feel like it's public, right? I mean, because you can refer to it, you footnote it, whenever you're writing research reports, as long as you cite it.
So copyright and trademark don't mean anything to you.
Well,
If you copyright and trademark it, you're not cited, right?
I have long said that
You
if
own a
your
natural
entire
copyright.
revenue model rests on people not hitting Control C, Control V, you've got a bad revenue model. But that aside, I think it's
No one
important.
knows what hotkeys are anymore, man.
Well, this is a show for smart people.
You mean F3, F11, Shift Control F8?
Anyway, as I was saying, I think it's important to take into account what Sam Altman is communicating the strategy of ChatGPT is. And I think in retrospect in this lawsuit, I think he was playing a little bit of chess here because he has said many times it is the purpose of ChatGPT to build AGI. We are trying to build a sentient entity. Now, you are a sentient entity. You're a sentient entity. Is it illegal for you to read the New York Times and then synthesize that information and say other things?
No.
Even is it
I can
illegal
even paraphrase it.
for you to read it and then type it onto your keyboard exactly if you wanted to like retype this to somebody? Is that illegal for you to do
No.
in a one-to-one conversation? No, it's not.
But he's got I think he's got all the tools that he needs. He just needs someone that is a genetically woman, right? He could create an AI or an intelligence.
That's where you want. There
You
was
could
so-
make it a lot easier. You,
know
don't
what
have
it
to
is?
type to
So-
make it. You can just
Let me
know.
translate for Frank here. He wanted to make dirty jokes about the elephants and the legs, but couldn't figure out a way to do it because there were too many legs.
No, I
So
was
he
thinking
just
of the-
awkwardly shoehorned another sex joke.
No, I was actually
into
thinking
saying
about what
procreation.
do you name a dog that has no legs?
Stork AI.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm so lost. Oh,
Hey, it's the end of the year. We gotta. And then
That's what you were saying. Create an intelligence by having sex and having a child.
Yeah,
got it. Okay.
there we go.
That was literally the joke.
That's all I was trying to do.
That was the joke.
But then I was trying to get like people are sensitive.
You just called our children AIs.
How do you feel about that, Jacob?
Well, here's the thing. I don't know that I'm wrong
Honestly,
about
he
that.
has a point.
They don't tend to like think on their own anymore. They just do what we tell them to do.
What if
So,
you?
I
Yeah.
don't
What if you
know. Is
birth
that
an
kind of the
NPC
same
that
thing?
doesn't have an inner dialogue? I mean, basically, that's an AI, right?
Yeah. Well, that would be less than an AI. That would be a bot, I think.
Let's talk about ethical questions around abortion in Texas for a second, can we?
Oh, that seems like a left turn.
No, because remember we were talking about
Or
this.
right.
Pregnant women are getting pulled over in the HOV lane, and their argument is 2 heartbeats, and they. So how can you not be in the HOV lane?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't seem to be going well for the tickets
No.
because you can't really challenge tickets on the statutory basis. But that's kind of you don't think about little stuff like that, right? Does that mean if you go to a buffet, she has to pay twice? Or is it because the child's under 10? What if there's no rules about paying under 10?
It's kind of why I would like that ticket to happen in a very small town where there would be a small town judge that may just be like, are you kidding me? Right? You know,
Then again,
because
the
if you
small
get in the
towns-
bigger towns, it gets kind of like, we have to do what it says in the books.
Small town judges are the ones that said, I want a lawyer dog. Wasn't enough to qualify for Fifth Amendment immunity because he asked for a lawyer dog, not a lawyer, dog. That actually,
that actually
that's
happened.
why they say you have to affirmatively say it. So yeah, be careful. And even small towns, I think it was just, what was it, a district court or something like that was on an appeal.
Yeah. Well, it held up. Yeah.
It held up.
I'm a big proponent of if anything bad happens, you literally just say the word attorney and just never say another word. So
Well,
that's
apparently, lawyer dog is what you can say now, and that
works
No, it
too.
doesn't. Does not.
It does not.
It does not work.
Did not work. Yeah.
you don't get the lawyer dog. That's for sure. So, speaking of like
You want, but still,
this is
serious-
nothing that we were talking about. There was a transition like 3 stories
sorry,
ago,
man.
but now it's
So I just had to take it. It's it's his bad sex joke.
Yeah.
Don't blame me.
No, but still I want to go back to that transparency thing for a minute, because the more I think about that, I mean, the difficulty that you have there is that proper planning is done specifically to help navigate the legal system that we've created, right? It's not wrong to set up a corporation in case the corporation's charter and the corporation's work doesn't work out. It doesn't affect anything else. I kind of feel like having these transparency rules takes away all those protections and literally still puts it back onto the one of the shareholders or the main.
I mean, think about it. We
Sure.
have
It's-
people that the whole ban the box. We want to get rid of your criminal background because it's not fair because you can't get started, which is a very true statement. But if you, God forbid, start a company and it ends up not working out, you wait to the last second and you end up just letting it go, but you still owe $50 in some fee to the government because you didn't close it down. And then $2,000, some tax that got pushed up. And
Yeah.
then 20 years later, you run for Senate and someone goes, this guy owed $2,500 in taxes that he didn't pay.
Yes.
But it's nonsense, right? It's just it's a ghost corporation that doesn't exist anymore, and they want to use it to attack you. That's not going to happen. So you start a corporation, it stays with you forever. It better work.
So here's another thing that can be done. It can be our system is not set up to be Byzantine fault tolerant in the least. You can set up a corporation in somebody else's name if you have their personally identifiable information, and then let it go zombie and incur a whole bunch of fees and violate the law in terms of not updating information, and they will be liable for a bunch of taxes.
Yeah, you could do that very easily.
Yeah.
You just set up your own, because it just asks you what the email is.
Yeah, it asks you for their social security number, their email, and an address. It doesn't even have to be
I'm surprised
accurate.
it doesn't happen a lot, tell you the
It
truth.
happened to me.
Really, someone set up a corporation.
Someone
in
set
your
up a
name?
corporation in my name. Yeah, I've been hounded by like the state of New Jersey about it. Like I can't. I'm not going to pay $2,500 to shut down this corporation that I never started.
Right.
They're like, oh, just pay it. I'm like, I'm not going to. No, I didn't do it.
Well, the important part is to just pay it. Luckily, it's not California because they'd reach into your bank account.
I mean, I'm going through that right now, right? I moved down February 27th, 2020 from New York City a week before they shut down the whole thing. And before I went down, I knew I was coming to Texas. And so I applied for Texas Workforce Commission, got rid of New York Department of Labor Workers' Comp insurance through the Hartford, which by law was required to tattletale to New York Department of Labor, who sent me hate letters 6 months later and, said that I owed like $18,000+ because I didn't have insurance and I should have. And then all these penalties and fines. Meanwhile, I did everything I was supposed to, sent all the paperwork in. And now when I thought it was finally over and done with because they sent me letters saying everything was fine and done, I just got another letter in the mail yesterday saying that I owe more money. And I'm just like, this is
Automation or some
so
board person.
difficult to navigate.
I
and
left
you
Florida.
Can never win.
I
If
left
you-
Florida. I had my PIP insurance. They literally messed up a bank account. I couldn't get a bank account in California because they screwed something up. The next thing I know, it's saying that you don't have insurance on your car. I mean, like, I haven't been in Florida. I mean, it's like, and it sits there and it can impact other stuff.
Yep.
And it's all, regulations. I left California. I got a bank account instantly. But it was weird. It's a weird thing.
So this is an interesting story. I thought FTX.
What's the word for that? It's not tech debt. What would it be? Legal debt? Law debt?
I mean, it's a form of tech debt, I would assume. It's data. It's data related.
That might be something we ought to push something like Vivek or someone like that, start pushing that through. Like, hey, let's start cutting stuff that happened 20 years ago out.
Well, isn't there a thing
How you
that's
get a
supposed to be
grand
called
amnesty?
statute of limitations? That's supposed to exist already.
Yeah, but it doesn't happen in the social world is the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, do you even have to be guilty of it in the court of popular
No, you
opinion?
just have to be the target.
right.
Yeah.
So last look back story. So this happens every year now under the Biden administration. There's an executive order written that exonerates and pardons anybody with simple marijuana possession.
That's great.
Sounds great. Ask me.
I was way off. I guessed 8. I just guessed 8
Yeah,
people.
the-
I was way off, and I need to apologize for that. It's not 8.
Yeah. Ask me how many people were released from prison.
I mean, it sounds so wonderful. This is, I mean, it's simple. It's a simple thing. It's got to be a lot. How
Yeah.
many?
He said 8. He was way off. 0. Nobody. For the second year in a row, nobody has been released from prison as a result of this very specifically written executive order.
It's almost like the whole goal is just to say something.
Yeah.
What's it called? Performative allyship?
I guess. I don't know.
I didn't mean to drop that Marxism on you.
I
just
know
thought it'd be
it's
fun.
just
I heard the
it's,
name the
it's
other
just
day.
annoying. I was in prison the last time this executive order dropped, and everybody got really excited for about a day until we actually got a copy of what we were reading for this thing and realized, oh, nobody here qualifies. And that's specifically very frustrating for a group of people because we are all in minimum security prison, which means there's no sexual offenders, there's no violent criminals in that entire facility. They're all people that were there generally violating technicalities of rules or something drug related. Those are the two types of people there. And nobody got let go. Nobody got not a day off their sentence as a result of this executive order. And a lot of people were there, like some of them were like pot farmers. Like that's all they were there for being a pot farmer.
What was that? Wasn't there? We were talking about somebody that was a lobbyist. That something about governmental waste. Something. Shouldn't he be working on getting
talking
rid of
about
some of these things?
Andretti?
No, we were talking about there
Open
was
borders.
somebody that was going after the Bernie Sanders PBM model.
Oh,
right,
God. Citizens against, government waste.
government waste.
Right.
Cat-
Sounds a little bit like maybe he should be focusing on that.
Yeah.
Give him
So
enough money, he'll do it.
in conclusion, 2020 has been
Funded
a hell
by
of a
Colorado.
year. My friend, no, it's
It's
2024.
2023.
Yeah.
Did you say 2020?
It's 2020, yeah. I know. But it feels like this has just been an extension of the last several years.
I think that's good,
the
though.
joke.
I had a different experience than most people in high school. Like, if you talk about high school, they talk about how fast their senior year went and Part of it is it's the same thing for 4 years. You've got it all down by the time you're a senior. You're worrying about the future, but it goes quicker. So I moved my senior year. So my senior year was very long. And it's something that you learn over time. If you start commuting and going into the same business for 10 to 12 years, something like that, time goes by pretty damn fast. If you're constantly uprooted and doing other things, it goes slow. This has been a very slow year, which in some ways is kind of exciting. It didn't just disappear. Versus, I mean, I can think of some times in the teens where I don't remember what happened in 2013. Does anybody? It was not slow by any stretch of the imagination. But now, every day there's something new. There's a constant.
Yep. Days are long.
Wow.
Years are quick.
So as we transition out of this year, I figured we'd offer an opportunity to kind of do it. And I know you did one of these this week that we were going to talk a little bit about, and then do a look back, look forward. 2023 is ending. What's the prediction for the next year or so of
Before we do that, though, anyone
areas
got any good New Year's plans? Anybody going out to dinner, doing something fancy? Steakhouses or anything
I
like
could, but no. No, we're staying home for once.
I mean, it's Sunday, so who goes out? But
Yeah.
not doing a meal at any time between now and Monday?
I know where you want to go.
Taco Ocho, man.
Taco Ocho? There you go. Not a sponsor, but they could be, right?
Not a sponsor, but they could be. So, it came up in conversation that, certain things have changed over the years. And as we all know, I'm a stickler for food service. And that's the one thing that I've hated the most about moving to Texas is the food quality and the food service and the prices. I mean, the prices here are at least, and I'm not
bad as
joking,
New York.
at least as bad as New York with less quality food.
I go to the
and
airport,
less
I get the same
service.
price that I get in Allen.
Yeah.
The airport's no longer expensive.
There was this, the conversation kind of came up about, the super secret kind of things that happen. And Del Frisco's was a local restaurant started here in Dallas, and it was an amazing establishment. And randomly years ago, I was at dinner or lunch actually with a friend of mine who sold satellite before this. There was like Pan Am Sat, Intelsat. There was like two companies that literally controlled all of the cable and internet. So they made a lot of money, and his job was sales, which meant that he had the expensive count of an elephant. So he would go to Del Frisco's a lot. And one day the general manager comes out, the head chef, concierge comes out, and they present him with a silver dollar. And it said Del Frisco's New York on one side, and on the back it said other stuff. But it's like one of those things that if you've seen Casino, you see him shuttled through, and then they pull out a table, put it down. That's what you used to be able to get at Del Frisco's. They have a coin, or they have coins that, like, you walk in there on a Friday night with a few other people, and they see the coin right this way, and that I thought about using that this weekend, but I
mean,
don't know
like
whether or not it's going to work because Lowry's owns them now.
I'm the mayor of 10 Star Taco Bar in Frisco because I ate there enough times that I claimed it that no one else could
Yeah.
And I'll always be the mayor because that location's no longer there. So on Foursquare, if you search it up, I'm still the mayor of 10 Star Taco Bar.
Nice.
The Del Frisco is pretty crazy. I got a buddy who was telling me about that because he used to wait tables into that. And he said that they were so popular that everyone was making six figures. The waiters are making six figures.
Yeah.
And one guy sold his table and his spot like on Craigslist. I don't know, it was like 200 or $500,000, like some insane amount of money. And basically, you can come in and have these guaranteed clients and tables at Del Frisco, which I'm not sure how, but that's like a, we don't do stuff like, no,
So
it's not out to eat anymore, but
there's a place up in New York, still up in New York. Maybe you guys have actually seen that there's a sauce out on in the market. It's called Rayo's, right? Rayo's. That's a very fancy Italian restaurant up in Harlem that basically it's like you can get a reservation there, but you have to go sit at the bar pretty much every day for a long time before they invite you to have your own spot on a specific day at a specific time every week. So it's
I was excited because I got a 12-ounce beer at the Goat.
and
apparently, I'm just playing in the wrong leagues.
hey, they upgraded, and now they sell sauce at every grocery store in the world. So I don't know that they need to do that anymore, but whatever.
Oh, flying saucer. Yeah. So one of my friends who
The one in Madison?
I'm not going to say his name on the air because the story, how it ends, but he went there to get his name on the plate, that they have. I don't know if you've ever been to Flying Saucer.
It's the beer one in Addison,
Yeah,
right?
if you drink enough beers, if you drink all the beers on the menu, and the menu's this thick, you get your name on a plate on the wall. And he developed alcoholism in the attempt. So I don't think he ever got the plate, but he now has a chip. So
just one more thing that he can't. Right, different kind of coin. Different kind of coin.
Yes. So okay, predictions and reflections.
Man, God, there's so much. I have been short and wrong for an entire year, and I still feel like Jeff Finnick. I'm not wrong. I'm early, but that doesn't mean that I didn't hire new staff. It starts basically January 1 to take over that part of it. I just don't see how these companies can continue to have these multiples with what's going on. So I predict that the stock market will be sideways to down. I could be wrong. Probably will be. That's my prediction.
Are you allowed to say those things?
It's my prediction.
Am I allowed to say those things?
As
long as it's not an individual stock.
Look, this is, you got to talk to your own financial advisor. This is just my opinion. It's not advice. This is just, I feel like we ran really far, really fast based on the expectations of some made-up board that uses made-up numbers when the truth of the situation is 7 companies have basically held up the entire, stock market. So that's my opinion. We've got credit card debt going up. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, maybe multiples don't matter anymore because if you think about it, the United States, there are rumors out there. The United States, we're the rich kid, right? So everyone else is going to suffer, but we'll stay the same. Like the recession's going to happen in Germany.
I mean, that's been the case for how long now? Yeah. Early instead of trends.
Yeah. So
how's it still going? I have no clue.
I will say that I'm optimistic. I think we can get ourselves through pretty much anything. We just got to figure out what it is and then and work through it. I think you're going to see some interesting stuff going on with data center usage, with new technologies. I know that there are some really amazing things that have been being built up for the past 3 years in the private markets, maybe with a more solid economy and market and happier people, that some of these technologies will be realized and we'll be able to see them in the mainstream and they can come out of hiding. So I am very excited and hopeful for just a number of things that could happen, from healthcare reform to just overall new company formation based on new language models and technology.
It should be pretty stable. It's a presidential year and nothing's going to get done.
That's true. Well,
so they're not going to pass anything or do anything strong.
That's
They'll
good.
Talk about it, but till the end of the year, it should be relatively
generally
stable.
speaking good though for the stock markets, because if there's a deadlock and Congress can't, or the government can't do anything, the companies keep getting away with what they're getting away with. So
that's an interesting way of putting it.
Hey, look,
I would have said they can't continue to take more and more of your money and give you less and less in services. By the way, can we just retire the whole you pay taxes, do not like roads and libraries, especially the way that most roads and libraries look these days? The only ones I travel are the private ones, of course.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, I'm going to drive 35 and 75 is full of crazy people. I mean, it's just not worth it.
This is an interesting form of snobbery that exists only in Dallas, I think. I don't drive on public roads. What's wrong with you?
we have
That is so true.
when I had broken my ankle in New York in the wintertime, I found out really quickly that crutches are hard. And you can't really so often use those scooters because everyone has a walk up, right? So I can assure you that there's not a single square on the city streets of New York City that doesn't have like more or less a quarter of an inch off.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Here, our roads are concrete. They are straight. They are level. They have lines. They are wide.
Well,
We go fast.
we don't have snow and ice, and we don't have those problems. So it's like cars in Southern California. They last for forever because
No salt.
never
no
I mean,
nothing.
there's nothing wrong with them.
Yep.
Yeah. So here's
But again, 45 isn't fast enough, so he
Right.
pays for his 75.
I'll
plus.
rattle off a couple of them here.
Yeah.
I think Threads is going to start a job board.
Okay. Okay. Oof. Oof. Ah.
I think that hiring is going to explode for smart people.
Can I ask a question on that one first?
Yeah.
Will anybody get hired
No.
off the Threads job board?
No, they're just going to announce it.
Oh, okay.
And then a bunch of people in my industry are talking about how great that is because
Could use it as a filter for the other job boards. Like, I don't want to.
No. It's just going to be it's just a silly thing that they're going to do. They just
Yeah.
announce it occasionally. I think that hiring is going to take off for certain kinds of companies.
Yeah.
The ones who have spent the last year and two retrenching, building their tech, cleaning out their tech debt, really figuring out the models as we're working on for DBK, that there's the models that need to change. So many models are built on pricing based on the old days, and you don't have 0% interest anymore. You have a lot better digital integration. A lot of the fees and things we charge are so ridiculous. I think a lot of those models get torn up. I think the same thing's happening in healthcare, and it's happening in retail and high volume. So some of these companies, you're going to see people just disappear because I think a lot of people are working for companies that they don't really need to exist.
Mm-hmm.
They're just there because of inertia and some debt. And other companies are going to explode. So it'll be very interesting to see, can people pivot towards growth and not crazy 50% jumps in salary, but strong, steady, profitable performance where you're expected to do something. So it's going to be this weird thing where the economic news is not going to look great. Some people are going to do very, very well. Others are going to continue to get hit with they just didn't plan ahead.
Failing to plan is planning to fail.
I mean, it's just going to be tough from there. And then I think on the political side, I think that every bingo card you have is going to be wrong. I think we're going to see more crazy stuff than you could imagine. It makes the Maine Secretary of State throwing Donald Trump off the ballot because she felt like, how is that? You would never have been able to guess that would have occurred just a few years ago.
Yeah.
I think the dumb stuff that's coming our way is going to be so much worse as people, particularly in politics, media, and in the entertainment, continue to flail around furious that they've lost control over the narrative. So they say dumber and dumber things. Like we were talking about, those TikTok people or the influencers are always doing something crazier because they're just addicted to the attention. So we're going to see more dumb stuff like this.
I mean, certainly the younger generation of politicians on both sides, the Boberts and the AOCs are addicted to that controversy, that dopamine hit that they get, and that
they need to wait 40 years like the rest of the people in Congress till they really earn their stripes.
I don't care how young they are. I care how silly they are, right? I mean, like AOC.
It's a normal thing. Why would an intelligent person go into that and deal with a bunch of 75, 80-year-old people who have an iron grip on power? It's all about money for them, and they don't care what you do. Of course why wouldn't you have a little fun?
Well, I mean, but like, do stuff. Don't so Boebert and AOC both do the thing where they like to I mean, and I'm using them as an avatar for
Sure. They bring attention
the
to
new
things.
generation. They're pretending like they still don't have power. No, you are like, damn the man. No, you are the man. You're elected. Do the thing. Just be a politician and get your agenda across. You don't need to bring attention to issues. You are the issue setter. Like, you are the person that sets the agenda in politics now. You are an elected official. Don't
think that's
pretend
true?
like you're grassroots.
You don't think that they're just appointed or selected or
It doesn't matter.
bought off or
But
told to do this? And
I don't care about that. Like, you are in a position to do things. Don't pretend like you're a blogger for, Huffington Post or Daily Kos or Politico or any of these
I
other
look at it slightly
idiotic
different.
places.
And here's why. When we used to have the Republicans and Democrats when they were much closer together,
Yeah.
as they started to split apart in the 90s and 2000s, the Democrats go far left, the Republicans switch parties and all that other crazy stuff that's occurring. You would see these people scream at each other, and then as they're leaving the Senate room, where we're going to go to dinner tonight.
Yeah.
They were faking the animosity.
Right.
What makes you think that people doing it now are any more sincere than they were 20 or 30 years ago? To me, it's all performative. I think that they want them doing that because now I can fundraise against AOC, or I can fundraise against George Santos, or whatever crazy thing they're coming up with now. I mean, I just feel like it's all performative. I feel like they're not that bright either. The more time you spend with politicians, the less you respect politics.
Those that can't teach and those that can't teach govern.
I've always hated that other can't teach thing. Teaching is actually better than doing. Everybody knows this, right?
Well, for income.
It takes a higher level of understanding of a process to teach it than just to do it.
If you're a successful teacher, yeah. But anyway, that's a whole other topic. I wanted to circle back to something you were saying about the layoffs. So there's been a couple of things in the news. This is both for you.
The Google ad ones.
So the Google is doing a bunch of layoffs. They're citing AI as a factor.
Are they though?
Yeah. Okay. Let me finish the sentence, please. Let me finish the question before you answer it. AI. They're citing AI as a factor, and then again, Pizza Hut is also doing some significant layoffs as well for a completely different reason. There's a minimum wage hike that's occurring over there in California. They're laying off all 1,200 drivers that they have as a result, and they're going to farm out delivery to Grubhub and DoorDash and the like. Are both of these layoff things, do you think these are just like threats that may not come to fruition, or do you feel like these are legitimate responses to things that are happening that they're actually going to do?
I'll speak to the second one first, if I could.
Sure.
So when you're forming a company in, let's say, New York City, where you are a waste disposal company, you can, you have to use organized labor, and the Teamsters will actually drive your trucks for you, and they have their own health care benefits and all those different things. They will not get out of the truck and they will not unload it. That's a whole different group, a whole different thing.
Union, yeah.
But same thing. Like, this is almost like a PEO. This is like Pizza Hut saying, you know what? We don't need the liability of the drivers. We don't have to pay for their extra insurance. We don't have to pay them an hourly wage. There are people out there that are flexible and willing to do this of their own volition. And people like us already have Grubhub accounts and don't seem to care that, like, it's $3 less if you just called them and told them to deliver it. So I think it's brilliant. I think they're going to cut off a significant amount of money in their benefits spend. I think I think this is a very interesting call. The only problem is, what if they go out of business, right? Because we see the supply chain shakeups.
You don't control it anymore.
One place to the other.
What happens when they shut down Uber in California, like they did in Austin for those times? Or what happens when you can't get a job at Uber or Lyft because you have something in your background, or your credit card's not right, or you had some issue? So now you could get a job as a pizza driver. Now you can't. Now you have to go to the gig economy because they just destroyed 1,200 jobs for people.
Yeah.
By raising that wage, which is exactly the whole point of raising the
basically
wage,
all the people, all the mids from Google that got laid off now have a job over at Grubhub driving and delivering pizza.
The question is, were they actually being laid off? Because I noticed in the article they're saying
that
wasn't. It's not 30,000. They were actually, someone was pretty angry. In fact, like a journalism guy who was on LinkedIn was like really, really furious that they ran with that story, because it's not what they said it was. They didn't say they're just laying 30,000 off for AI. They're saying adjustments are coming. This impacts 30,000 people. We have to figure out what we're doing and how.
This is what I'm saying. Like, it sounds like a lot of things are getting blamed on AI and automation. I saw another story.
You will 100% see that.
Yeah.
Because you're already seeing that kind of stuff.
But it's the same thing that I thought I saw during the SAG writer strike and all that stuff. Is you had the, I mean, there's legitimate things that they were fighting for in terms of, like, trying to get better wages or better, like, streaming residual rights or whatever. These were things that mattered to them as a writers guild that I thought were legitimate issues. And then you saw the studios pushing back with, oh, we'll just replace you with AI, which we all at this table, we've played with AI. We know that's not a realistic threat to me.
That's one of my predictions, is that you will have some catastrophic decisions where companies are absolutely throttled, don't grow, people are fired because some idiot CEO was told AI will fix this. They cut all their internal staff, and it just goes to shit the second something breaks down, because it will.
Right.
Right. To me, that will be very, very interesting. I can't wait, and I can't wait for the excitement of it, because it's like the old outsourcing days.
It's going to be interesting because it's going to take a while for them to figure out that those people are also doing weird things, because, as we talked about, when you've got post-production work and it's being done over here, but then this person was hired specifically to do it, but he didn't want to do it, and he offloaded to someone else who didn't do it right. So it's going to take a while for management to figure out that it isn't going right either, right? This is the compatibility issue.
This is my prediction when it comes to AI, right? And it's really kind of bouncing off your idea a little bit too, because the idea that we're going to get the next, War and Peace or the next Avengers movie or the next anything like that level of.
Did you just compare those two?
If you let me finish the freaking sentence before you start to argue with it. Anything of that level of like creativity or length out of an AI, unaided by a human, is simply unrealistic, right? Like you cannot get much more than a short vignette, creative vignette,
like a trailer of the movie, but it's not going to do the 2-hour movie.
Right? You can make it look as if like like especially the video stuff,
in a
like
world,
all that stuff. Like you can get maybe a Ken Burns thing out of an AI right now, and certainly for the next foreseeable future, we're not progressing that fast that we're going to have a whole feature-length movie with 5 fingers on every actor's hand.
Now we'll have me doing a 2-minute thing where Keith David the Keith David voice does a documentary because I'm copying off of somebody else, and it'll be viral, and then
sure. So that's where we're at now. But what we are seeing being ate away at, and this just kind of goes back to the interview with Charney, like the gig economy, stuff that's commercial work, voiceover work, ad work, things that have like for a long time blended with, there's been a blend of like creatives that cross over from entertainment to ad and marketing and all this other stuff. Like that blend is going to disappear because AI is going to eat that type of work. The amount, like, you don't need to be, a Scorsese guy to direct,
right.
A
if
30-second
so
spot.
much of the crazy stuff like lens flares.
Yeah,
we could just do that for you. Copying from, take a look at Casablanca, take a look at Citizen Kane, take a look at Heat, take a look at Terminator. Make the cool stuff there in my movies.
Right.
That'd be interesting. I think there's a second problem with that too, very specifically for AI. We talked about this back in 2017. Remember, if you hate it, automate it. And I think what happens is this pitch that we're somehow going to get rid of all the low, stupid stuff that we do, freeing us up for the high contact, important work. So it's not going to take jobs and create new ones because we're just not doing drudge work anymore. The problem is there's a lot of drudge work in the world. There's a lot of drudge work. The stuff we were working on earlier, we'd love to have AI take it, but there's armies of people who do that. And what happens is that if AI is so easy to use, like the folks or the CSMs or the others who are working 4 hours a day, pay forward, pay them a wage so they can buy your car. I'm seeing companies thinking they can slice everything else, hold on to their margins, and don't think everybody else is going to do it. If you tell people use AI writers, they're going to go, great, I'm going to pay you 10% of what you were paying. They're not going to let you keep your old margins. So AI is going to cripple these industries because the CEOs can't think ahead to anything past their own bubble. And we're not thinking in terms of healthy ecosystems, healthy environments. We're thinking in terms of how do I get mine? And I think that's going to be terribly destructive because someone like you or I can walk in with AI and take 10, 15, 20 jobs. I did it 20 years ago without AI. It's not that hard to break a process. Yeah. But what about everybody else?
So let's add in another thing. I don't know if you guys saw today, there was an article, I forget if it was in the Wall Street Journal, maybe CNBC, but basically Texas has become, I think, the 3rd largest financial services capital.
Really?
Over Atlanta, over anybody else, just California, New York, and then Texas. And it's based on the amount of employees in the financial services world off of Wall Street, which is really interesting. But the other part of the equation was that people in Texas are getting paid substantially less. And, obviously it's spun in a way to be like, oh, well, how dare they? But it costs less to live here, right? And you have more for your dollar. I'm cool with that, right? The fact that you think that only smart people are in New York and only smart people are in California,
of course,
it's kind of a fallacy now, right? So my point is that, like, I think that you're also going to see that technology has actually, and this work from home and work from anywhere is kind of here to stay, but it's going to have to be, there are going to have to be safeguards put on that because how do you know who's doing the work, right?
Well, that's just basic management. The bigger question is remote work opens up a larger supply. So if I'm going to go remote work and go to Texas or Indiana, why wouldn't I go to Malaysia and get it much cheaper? If you're really opening everything up, one of the beauties of New York is because
but you got to look at the tax structures. Remember, we already talked about government capture.
But one of the reasons salaries are so high in New York is because it's such a pain because there's so many people there, and there is a limit. You can't live. I mean, you can, but it's not easy to live in Allentown and take the bus into New York from home, and they don't understand that working in the office keeps salaries higher because it has to be basic supply and demand.
Cost of goods sold.
So are we all prepared to make
Input
less?
costs.
I mean, yes.
Not me. I'm going to raise my rates.
I'm prepared to make less, but work 4 jobs because an actual job doesn't typically require 8 hours, unless very few jobs, unless they actually do require you to be in person, like working in a studio, working in a factory, working in some place where you have to touch things.
Yeah.
But like most corporate jobs I've ever worked, I spent at least 3 hours out of the day in meetings, in the hallway, screwing around. Nokia, they made us take 3-hour lunches like a couple days a week. I mean, that's not productive time. No one's making money off of that.
Yeah, it could be productive, though. Why do you have to be productive for 40 hours?
There. It wasn't.
I mean, why is that? I mean, that's one of the things that I've found is I free my head. I'm working even when I'm not. But that just means I have to be disciplined enough to go do the work, do the research, sit there, take a walk, and let it sit in the back of my brain.
You're doing consultative work right now.
Yeah,
that's different.
Yeah.
And
coming up with new stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
But like if you're a drone in a marketing office,
marketing.
That's where I was at Nokia. I was under the marketing umbrella. I was doing software work, but I was the tech guy under a marketing team. There was like 5 of us. And so everybody around us had the work ethic of a marketing guy who didn't want to work very hard. And they would say they would not want us to do these, lift mountains. I designed a protocol while I was there, while still taking 3-hour lunches and 2 meetings a day that were each an hour, and I've got like 15 minutes to write some code before it. Like, how am I going to hit my deadlines? No, I'd rather work from home for that.
This goes back to my contention that, what is the definition now again of full-time employment, right? And the benefits associated with such, because
32 hours,
as we said, 100 years ago or whatever, I'm saying more or less 100 years ago, we had to be somewhere picking stuff, eating stuff, producing stuff, doing stuff. And now the computers, the machines do a big chunk of that, right? 2% of the world's population handles pretty much all the food, right? And so we've got,
it's not scary.
Back then we needed a lot. We needed to make sure that people were protected from harm, from not being paid right. And the unions did a good job, and they're actually coming back and starting to do some of the same stuff that they needed to do. But I have a problem with the way that these things are being quantified again. It's like, you don't, like you said, you don't need to work 40 hours in the same job, right? But then again, you also probably don't need to qualify for all of those ancillary benefits too. Do you really need, or do you really should you get all that paid time off?
Yeah.
If you're working 2 hours a day, you can still take care of your kids. I don't know. I'm being bad.
No. I mean, these are actually big questions because they become unlimited PTO exists because nobody wants it as a liability on their books. And in states where you have to pay it out, they've just saved millions of dollars.
Right.
So, and there are ways they set their assets allocations. I do have another prediction, and this one, I don't know if you've been seeing this. It's that CMOs are losing not only their luster, but their power. They're being pushed out of executive meetings. They're not being listened to. Their budgets are being cut because 20 years they've been spending all this money, and it turns out that maybe they weren't doing that good of a job. So no one's listening to them now. Because what have B2B marketing teams done? They boosted more activity. Well, all the channels are broken now. So what is a good CMO doing? That'll be interesting because, for a while there, they thought CMOs were going to eat the world. That was the whole early 2000 pitch. After CTOs, CMOs took it. If marketing is losing its value in the marketplace, I mean, you've been to some of those tech fights.
Yeah.
Where they're talking about embracing AI or not embracing something like that, but it's a...
Oh, man. I wish we had a CISO type person here, because that Fight Club, speaking of Fight Club, the the stuff that I learned about the level of disarray in corporate America under the cybersecurity banner is fascinating.
Okay,
the
so ask a question.
SEC getting involved in, like, if you just don't disclose a potential vulnerability, no matter how small, SEC gets jurisdiction and potential criminal proceedings against you. As an executive, so like people in the CISO suite
When's
are
the
going.
last time executive went to jail, though? Isn't it the
Wow, but this is a new
VP
ruling.
or the whistleblower that goes to jail? That's usually my experience.
This is a new ruling. This is a new jurisdiction they've given themselves.
That's just another way for insurance companies to make money with directors and officers liability insurance.
Sounds like someone needs a fiduciary.
But how does insurance prevent you from jail time?
Well, I mean, it depends on like what you're actually doing, right? Like you pull a SBF, you're going to jail. But if you're,
Barely.
chief information officer and you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing to whatever standard you could be doing, and you're trying to make changes, it's going to be hard for them to prove intent.
That
right?
sounds
You should
good,
write a
but
letter to the judge, and they'll go easy on you.
So the
'cause you're such
DOJ,
a nice guy.
Good
the
luck with that,
DOJ
yeah.
is what prosecutes SEC cases, and if the DOJ decides you're going down for something, it doesn't matter what the truth is. You're going to go down for it. So if the SEC,
Well, someone is.
if the SEC
You don't have to be
says,
faster than the bear.
What matters when you're pleading to the court?
SEC says you were negligent to the point of criminality and not reporting this potential security exposure, and the DOJ says, okay, sure, we believe that, then you're going to go to prison. It doesn't matter what you say.
I think they should bring back genuflection before judges. Instead of instead of standing up, I think we ought to fall prostrate
Yes.
in front of them. Oh, you're so wise and great, and the system works so well. That's the thing that sticks in my craw the most. They want you to stick it, take it, and then tell them they did a good job.
And to wit, going back to a 2023
Disgusting.
story, that kind of backs up what I'm saying. One of the best actors in crypto, CZ, the CEO of Binance, CEO and founder of Binance, the guy who did more for the industry to make whole when people got hacked, and it wasn't even had nothing to do with Binance. Binance saw something that they could fix. We've got a fund set aside to make people whole. They would do it. This guy is potentially facing prison time because the DOJ and the SEC put him in their sights.
Yep.
This is now a ruling that CISO people are seeing. They're potentially going to be in the sights the same way that we're seeing crypto people in their sights.
It's the IRSR. I mean, legitimately, there are so many pitfalls, especially when you're handling people's lives, when you've been hired to handle sensitive data. The leaks are not just on the cyber side, right? They're on the human side as well. And even on the human side of the cyber side, those rules apply. I can't begin to tell you the number of times when we're doing Zoom and you're working with your colleagues and you're taking control
Email
and
pops
helping
up.
them with stuff. It's like, technically, did you sign that? Right? I mean, we see this happen all the time. Like, how many times
we
have
were
you
joking
been
about that earlier.
Yeah,
I
how
need you to click this box
you
because
click
I don't
this
want to
box
sign
'cause-
for you.
Yeah, but how many times do you have like somebody that's helping you on a tech support desk that says, "Okay, just agree to that, and then I'll be able to take over your screen." Did you read it?
Yeah.
No.
I mean,
Right.
Are they still in your system afterwards?
right? So complicated, but how about we just have a glorious revolution and we're going to throw.
He's not a marketer. He's not a marketer.
Wait.
I don't think he.
Wait, we want to go back to a way where we just have phones, paper, pen. How about that?
The pen.
Sounds great for an old guy. I won't be
Or
able
a
to see you.
pencil.
What happens when your hands go bad? It doesn't work.
A clicky pen.
Glorious revolution over here.
I'm still caught up on Glorious Revolution. Yeah.
Well, luckily the trust
you know
and
what
safety.
the Glorious Revolution was,
Yeah,
right?
Cromwell.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Just checking.
No, we're both educated.
And so are you. And thank you for joining us this year, dear viewer. It's been a long year, but we're finally to the end.
William of Orange.
It's finally done, and we're gonna have you come back next.
William of Orange.
What?
Nothing. Go ahead.
What?
We've
He
been
interrupts you. You don't get mad. We're gonna go to Fight Club after this.
We've been going for an hour and 40 minutes today. By the way, it felt like an hour?
Did not feel like an hour and 40 minutes.
That's
No,
great.
we haven't. That's impossible. Is it?
That's what I was told by one of our producers.
2:17.
Well,
Did we
all
start
I can say is that I appreciate the opportunity to give my opinions. I know that you guys appreciate us being able to have this wonderful technology available to us, and I hope you guys got something positive out of whatever I said this year.
I learned some stuff.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So I think we're in agreement. You learned some stuff. Come back next year for some more.
For more stuff.
Have a happy New Year, folks.
Cheers. Happy New Year's, everyone.
Hey, thanks for watching The Merge. We've got a ton more stuff for you to watch on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, everywhere. Check us out.